So with that, I will give you back control, Bob.
Great. Thank you so much. So good morning, everybody, and thanks everyone for attending. This is I'm really excited to be here, and it's it's an excellent event. They've been doing a fantastic job over there at Synergy, and it's great to see that they've carried that right into the virtual environment. So my name is Bob German, and I'm joined today by April Dunham. Um, we are partner technical architects working in David Totten's team. So we work helping partners like Synergy Technical with it's kind of to provide a little bit of backup technically, although Synergy is pretty darn good. I don't think they need a lot of help, but nonetheless, that's what we do. And so we work in this environment all the time. Today, what we're going to do is actually focus on a little overview of living in Microsoft Teams. So the thing is that April and I are our teammates are spread all across the United States. Our partners are all across the United States, and so we pretty much live in Microsoft Teams. And you've probably seen. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on slides. I have like 2 slides, but you can see the before all the craziness that we had right now. And more people are working remotely and wanting to collaborate, if not full time, at least part time, as well as people collaborating across distances. Microsoft Teams is taking off at a phenomenal rate with over 200,000 organizations around the globe using this product every day, 20 million active daily users, and that was before everybody started going virtual. So because of the current situation, so lots going on. What we want to do today is refocus on Teams. It's really the hub for teamwork. It's a place you can communicate, collaborate. You can customize and extend it, and you can work with confidence. We're going to show you all that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on on slides because we're going to go into demo. And April, do you want to introduce yourself quickly? I don't mean to steal the show here.
Yeah, no problem. So as Bob said, my name's April Dunham. I'm a partner technical architect at Microsoft working with Bob. I've been here for a few months now. I came from a Microsoft partner, and was a business apps MVP before joining. So happy to be here at the conference and talk all about Teams.
Yeah, there you go. And I was working with a partner too, and I was a SharePoint MVP. So we were part of the same community. So today's demo, and please bear with us depending on how it goes, because we've got this demo involves 4 computers, a phone. We're trying to do something that we would normally do in person on Teams, and I don't know if anybody's ever quite tried to do that. So if we have any glitches, please bear with us. If we didn't clean up the conversations from our dry runs and you see some little weird things in there, please bear with us on that too. Today's story is about Contoso Electronics. And by the way, throughout this, we're going to be explaining all the different features of Microsoft Teams. If you're new to Teams, this should be very helpful. If you're an expert in Teams, hopefully you'll still pick up a few tips here. I'm going to play the part of Alan, who is a channel manager at Contoso Electronics. We're building a new product, the Mark 8, and Megan is the product manager for that. I'm going to get a notification from Tony Smith over at our largest retail partner, Southridge Video, with some concerns about the product. And you'll see then how we collaborate with the rest of the team to hopefully address that problem. And as I said, as we go, we're going to be focusing on a lot of the different aspects of Microsoft Teams. So this seems to happen every time I every time I cover this window, it goes away. So I have to reconnect. 42086. And so I'm using a different machine here just so that I can get the full cameras and stuff working on there. All right. So, whoops. Let me try that again. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start my day here in Microsoft Teams. And just to give you kind of a quick tour, right up here, the activity feed, this is where I get to see everything that is going on. This is kind of like looking at my messages for things that I need to pay attention to, sort of like my unread messages would be in email. Chat, so I can chat one-on-one with people, and this is something that will come up during the scenario. Teams is where we actually do our collaboration. We've got calendar where we've got meetings uh, that are Teams enabled, as well as others. Calls that are, this gives us, kind of replaces the phone for those of us in the modern workplace team at Microsoft, and could for you too. And files is where all of our recent files are. So there's a lot here. I'm going to start in teams, and what you'll notice is that these teams are actually organized by subject, and you can see that different people are assigned to them, and then there's subtopics inside, and those are called channels. So for instance, if I go into this team and just kind of look at the members, what you'll notice is that I actually have a couple of external members in here. Actually, one, Tony Smith, is from Southridge. So this is something that you should know about, is that you don't have to be part of the same company to work for Teams, to collaborate in Teams. Just as we're all from all different organizations here today, it's possible to collaborate with people from other orgs if your admin permits it. And of course, our friends at Synergy can help you configure all of this. In this case, this team is enabled for guest users, so we can have Tony come in as a guest, and he can do all kinds of things. He not just participate in meetings, he can share the files and the channel messages and do all kinds of things inside of here. And that's something that can be enabled or disabled on a team-by-team basis. Now, we've got some different channels where we discuss different things, but notice that we also have an internal channel that has a little padlock. So this is a new thing for Microsoft, and I should probably put something in here. I didn't. I created this, but I didn't put any content in. But what you'll see is that the members here are different. So I can actually come in and show you these members, and Tony is not in here, right? So we can collaborate and kind of keep everything organized the way we'd like it by, hey, this is stuff having to do with Southridge Video, but we can also have an internal conversation. This is a fairly new feature, and I wonder if anybody has any questions about private channels or if anybody's tried using it yet. So I'm not going to pause for too long, but please post in the chat. Let me see if there's any chats coming through here.
Don't see anything.
Okay, so yeah. So anyway, this is kind of a cool new feature that we have. The only issue that I can see is that is actually in the content, right? So here I've got an unread message in the general channel. Tony Smith, who is our main liaison from Southridge Video, is saying that they have an issue with the new Mark 8 camera that we're developing. It's still in R&D. They have pre-ordered a number of these cameras, and but unfortunately, they're seeing a drop in sales unless the latest charging technology, the USB-C power delivery, is included. They don't think the camera will sell very well, and so they're going to reduce their order by 75%. So that absolutely puts a kind of a shock of panic into me. And so what I'm going to do is go over here to the Mark 8 project team and see if there's anything we can do about that. The first thing I'm going to do here is go into the general channel, and I'm going to pin this channel. So this is another new feature, is the ability to pin channels. And you'll see what that does is it brings it right up to the top here so that I can keep track of the channels that I use the most frequently. If you find yourself in a whole ton of different teams, then that is something that is a great convenience. I see a question here from Paul, which is after a channel is created as private or public, it cannot be changed. And that is true. They're working on that. It turns out that the way that the channel is organized, the files land in a different SharePoint site, and there's some other differences that at the moment we don't have a way of converting them. So you're right. You want to kind of think a little bit ahead and make sure that you're picking private or public kind of upfront for the time being. So good call out on that one. All right, so I'm going to come in here to the Mark 8 channel, and I really want to know if there's anything we can do about that. So, hey, remember that USB-C charging we cut from Mark 8, and we bring it back. And what I'm going to do is mention Megan, who is the product manager, who's the person who would have to make this decision. So what that's going to do is it's going to kind of alert her, and that we've actually got that I've asked her a question, and then she can go ahead and respond to that. And she's, well, I guess I didn't explain it very well. Can we talk? So a lot of times we end up doing this internally. It's kind of polite before you just go and initiate a phone call over Teams to actually kind of ask if it's okay. Maybe the person's busy, maybe they want to talk a little bit later, something like that. In this case, Megan is going to go ahead and just start up a meeting with me. And there's this little meeting button down here at the bottom. See the little camera? That's what she pushed. And what that does is it creates a channel meeting. So what's cool about this is that not only can I join it, but other people inside of our team could observe this and actually join the meeting. So you probably wouldn't want to do this unless you wanted to invite participation from your whole team. But I find that we use this a lot, and it actually helps us to collaborate. It's kind of like having a meeting around the kitchen or somewhere in your office where people are going to just walk in and throw in a few ideas, learn from it. And so it's really beneficial to be able to have this type of a more open meeting. You can also schedule meetings in a channel and then selectively invite people who you want there, and still leave it open for others in the channel to join in. So, Megan, yeah, it seems that they are going to cut their order by 75% if we can't include USB-C power delivery. I know we cut it, but is there any way that we can bring that back?
Oh yeah, well, if you remember, we cut that feature so that we could hit our margin goals for the project, though.
I know that was a tough decision. Well, how do we know if it's better decision if we lose this big order? I don't know if we're better off taking a haircut on the margin, or if we should, go ahead and put it in there anyway.
It's a good question. Let me get back with you. I'll check with some of my teammates and do some deep diving into this, and I'll let you know.
Cool. So before she does that, let me show you, while I'm still in the meeting here, I want to just show you one other thing. And and I'm just going to bring up my phone. So this is an Android phone. And I'm going to go into Teams, and we've still got a meeting active. But what I'm going to do is go into that same channel. Oops, wrong channel. And show you that I can actually join on multiple devices at the same time. Why would I want to do this? Well, maybe I just want to nip into the kitchen and grab a cup of coffee. Or maybe I want to actually be able to, maybe I'm sharing my screen and I actually want to be able to see the people who are in the meeting. So I want to click the little people button and see who's in the meeting. Or maybe I want to see the chat that's going on in the meeting. And so I can get to the chat button from here and actually participate in the chat on a second screen. So this is called companion mode, and it actually works on all different devices. So you shouldn't feel limited as you might have in the past by only joining from one device. You can actually join from multiple devices at the same time and kind of switch off without anyone even noticing. So with that, let me turn it over to Megan, who's going to do a little analysis on our our little business problem that we have here.
Yeah. All right. So playing the role of Megan here. So I need to figure out, what's the impact of this change, adding in this feature, and how's it going to affect our profit margin and all of that. So first thing I want to do when I'm investigating this is I want to look at a spreadsheet that we have here, or a Power BI report first, and I want to look at our sales projections. So I'm going into my Mark 8 project team here, and you'll see that we have a tab in this team called Sales Projections. And this is actually an embedded Power BI visual here within our Teams channel. So I can interact with it and I can see, so this is for our vendor Southridge Video. So I can see that we're projecting that they're going to push 15 million dollars worth of units of this video camera. And I can even click here and have interactive Q&A with this. And I can see, well, what's going to be the, what is the 75% reduction loss for Southridge Video? And it'll actually tell me natively here within the Power BI in our team that if we don't include this feature, we will lose about $11 million. So that's quite a big loss there. So probably really need to investigate this. So the next thing I'm going to do, I've looked at my Power BI that's embedded here in Teams and have to go away anywhere. Now I'm going to go into the Files tab. So files in Teams, if you haven't really worked with them a lot, they're actually stored within SharePoint. So I think Bob kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier. So you'll see when you click on the Files tab within Teams, you'll notice that there's an Open in SharePoint button. So that's telling you that these are stored in SharePoint, and you can actually open that and even interact with the files directly within SharePoint if you needed to. But they're here. So I'm going to go, actually, that file is in this other channel here, the project team channel. So I'm going to go to that file section, and in here I have an Excel spreadsheet. And this is our financial estimate sheet where we calculate cost of goods sold and the profit margin and all of that. So I need to look at this and see what this impact is going to be to add this in here. So the thing with all of these files, so whether it's Excel or Word, when you're interacting with the files within Teams here, you have rich native co-authoring. So I can be in this spreadsheet at the same time. If one of my partners was in here, I would be able to look at this and they could see, for example, like Alan's in it right now, and I can see that he's typing in it. So we have this rich native co-authoring right here within the spreadsheet, which is great. So I'm looking at the spreadsheet. I don't really know, though, by looking at it, what the impact of this is going to be. I really need to reach out to one of the engineers that worked on this to see how much it's going to cost to add in that USB-C feature again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start a new private chat with one of the engineers. So I'm just going to click this button here, and that'll open up a new chat window. And I'm going to reach out to the engineer, and I happen to know that that engineer that did that is Delia. So I'm going to ping her, and I'm going to ask her, how much it would be to add this feature back in. Okay. So with Teams, you have multiple different types of chats. So we looked at earlier how we could have a chat within the channel. Now I'm doing, though, a private chat just between me and Delia. And here I can see that she responded, and it's going to be about $2 per unit. And she said, I thought you said that was too much, and I need to check with Grady about the dates. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure. I worked with Delia before, so I knew that I needed to reach out to her, but I've never worked with Grady. So I need to investigate and see who he is and what he does. So I'm going to use the organization chart feature within Teams. So if you see here in this chat, there's an organization tab. If I click that, it's actually going to show Delia here, and it's going to show where she falls in the org structure. And if I look at this chart, I can see that Grady is a colleague of hers, and he's a designer. So I can get a little bit more context about who he is and what he does before I message him. So what I want to do here is I want to actually add him to this current chat that I have going on with Delia. So I can click here on the little Add People button, and I can add Grady in to this conversation here. So now it's a 3-person chat. And I could even, loop in Alan if I wanted to, so that he'd be aware of the conversation too. And then, so now I can start a new conversation here in the chat, and I can ask Grady what he thinks. the timeline would be here to add that. The USB-C back. And he can see that and reply. And then what I'm going to do is you'll notice here in the chat, there's this little pencil icon. So I want to give Grady and everyone I'm talking with a little bit more context about what this conversation is about. So I'm going to rename this chat USB-C feature so that we know that this specific chat is related to adding this feature in. Okay. So it really helps organize the chats and the meetings that you're having when you have a topic surrounded it rather than just people's names, right? So I can see Grady here has replied. He says we need at least one more engineer for that. So it's going good. I figured out how much it's going to cost and that we need another engineer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here to the spreadsheet first. So back here in our Teams channel, now that I know it's $2 additional for cost of goods sold, I want to go back into this financial estimate sheet so that I can calculate what impacts that's going to have on our profit margin. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add an additional $2 to this line item here and see that our profit margin went down a little bit, but in the long run, we're going to be saving a lot since we would have lost $11 million if we didn't add this back in. So I've updated the spreadsheet. The whole team can see it because it's here within our Microsoft Teams channel. They can see the update. And now what I'm going to do is I need to find that other engineer that can help. So if you look here in the file experience here, you'll see a conversation tab. And if I click that, this will pop out here on the right-hand side, and I can actually initiate a conversation directly within this file. So I can ask my team here, we decided to put this feature back in, and it'll save a huge deal, save us a lot of money, but we need another engineer ASAP. Is anyone available to help? And what I'm going to do within this chat, though, I'm going to @mention the channel so that it will, and you notice when I do that, it suggests that it knows the channel that I'm already in. I'm in this market plan channel. So it's going to let me @mention that. So now everyone that's in that channel will receive this notification that I asked this question, and they'll have a chance to respond. Okay. So now hopefully someone in my team, another engineer, is going to see that, and they're going to reply and hopefully offer to help me out here. Okay. And you can see when I did that, there's my conversation here. So I can see that back on the channel itself, that there's that spreadsheet that I edited, and I initiated the conversation from there. And here in the thread, I can see that my colleague Henrietta replied.
With the wrong reply, sorry. Yeah.
But I think she meant that she is ready and willing to help.
Yeah, I think that's what she meant too.
So there you go. She'll help. So a little Teams etiquette thing that I'll point out here. This, doesn't really warrant an actual reply, probably. She offered to help. So I can utilize the built-in reactions instead of having another reply. So I can just give that a big thumbs up or a heart, whatever I want, just to let her know I really appreciate you. I saw your response, and then I'm good to go. Okay. So Teams etiquette tip there. So now that I have my additional engineer, the next thing I need to do is add Henrietta to the project. And how I'm going to do this is using a custom bot that we created for our team here. So I'm going to call this bot, I'm going to go into my team channel here, and I'm going to @mention the bot. This is our consulting bot. So when I @mention that, I can do something like ask it to add, and then I can @mention Henrietta, and I can add her to the Mark 8 project here. When I do that, that's actually going to, just a second there. Okay. And when I do that, it's actually going to go and call that bot. It's going to take the data that I sent it. So it's going to Henrietta's name and then the name of the project. And the bot's going to run in the background. It's going to reply to me directly here in the Teams channel with an adaptive card. So this is an interactive card that I can work with within the team and give it some additional context. So it's automatically pulling in Henrietta's name and the client name, and even the project name. All I need to do is tell it what will be Henrietta's role. She's going to be a developer here. And then the forecasted hours for this project for the next 3 months, right? Now I can submit this interactive adaptive card, and the consulting bot will take that and add that data into our system, just like that. And as soon as it does, it gives me instant feedback that this was added and the details of what was added directly in the team, so that everyone within the team can see that I did that and see the progress of what's going on here. And now the last thing that I need to do, so I have called the consulting bot, I've looped in, I've figured out how much this is going to cost and all that. Now I need to submit an engineering change order for this so that we can get this process going. So if I go back here to our general channel, in the tab here, you'll see an option for ECO. Now this is actually a Power App that our IT staff here has built to handle our engineering change order request. So it's a very simple app. We can just see the requests that have already been submitted and keep track of the status, whether it's been implemented or it's still waiting for approval and all of that. And then we can initiate a new one. And what I did here is I've taken this Power App and I've actually embedded it within the team so that we don't have to go out to the Power Apps application to interact with it. And this is something that you can do within Power Apps and Teams. And if you want to learn more about this and go into a little bit more deep dive of Power Apps and what it is and what it can do and how to make this happen within Teams, be sure to stick around after this for my session, because that's exactly what I'm going to go over. Okay. But for this app, I just need to go and add a new change request here. And I'm just going to put in the customer it's for, and the estimated cost impact, and then what the change is. So we're going to add in the USB-C feature to the video camera, okay? I'm just gonna save that, and now our process is complete here. I've went through the whole thing. I've got added the project members, the people who are gonna be responsible for it, and have that change order in place. So now that we can start doing the work to add in that feature. Okay. And with that, I'm going to let Bob take back over here as Alan, but while we're switching over, do we have any other questions about the stuff that I just went over there? Let's see. Look in the chat. Let's see, there's something. Oh, there's a license one. Okay.
Yeah, no questions specifically about that, but Jeffrey Travis, do you want to come online and ask your question? I know Dan pasted in a document, but remember, there's toilet paper and an Xbox One X up for grabs.
That's right.
Hello.
Hi. You're coming through. It's good.
Yes, the big question is we're in GCC high, so that you were showing on the channels that you could actually lock them down and have different security. Is that going to be available anytime soon in GCC? Well, I'd say high, hopefully, but any of it?
So I don't have, I can get back to you or get back to my counterparts at Synergy and get that answer back to you. It's always a question. There's a lot of extra certification that has to happen to get into GCC. And also the processes change somewhat so that we're compliant with all the rules and only US citizens are touching the infrastructure and everything like that. So, so there is typically a 6 to 12 month delay on all features. This one just came out, I think it was November of last year in commercial. So it would be a little surprising if it came quite this soon, but can try to get you a better answer, but I'm gonna have to go check into it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions while we're on pause? I don't see any in the chat window, but don't hesitate just to chime in.
Okay.
I'd say go ahead, guys.
All right. So can you see my screen now? I'm back to sharing my team. Yes.
Still just video at this point, Bob.
Okay, let me try again on the sharing here. Oh yeah, that didn't for some reason happen. All right. My poor PC here is,
there you go.
There we go. Good. All right, sweet. So so here's the thing. I'm sitting here and I notice that Alan is sitting here and noticing that here in the go-to-market plan, there's been a lot of activity and it lit up. And coming in here, I can see that Megan already decided to put the feature in, that she needed some help. I can see that she got the help and that she assigned the engineer. How many emails were involved? None, right? Now, obviously, these messages have a certain amount of overhead, just like an email, but a couple of key differences. Number one, she didn't have to go and email me specifically. I am able to see what's going on because I'm part of the team. So you don't have, all the confusions around emails of, do I copy this person? Do I not copy this person? Are they going to become overwhelmed if I copy them too much? All that kind of goes away. Your team is your team, and you can be open and work in the open, or you can work in private as appropriate. And you don't need to go so often to the extra, oh gosh, I need to remember to tell this person or that person. It's just done. Here's all these different threads. The other thing, of course, about email is that it all just shows up in a giant pile, everything all mixed together. But you can see here, everything is kind of all related to the go-to-market plan for this one project. So I immediately can come in here and see everything that I need to know. So I'm pretty happy about this. And I'm going to just go ahead and ask Megan again. Is it okay to share this with Southridge? So I'm not going to go and respond to my counterpart over at Southridge Video unless I get some kind of an okay from the product manager, of course. But I got to tell you, this is the way that we work every day, is using these tools. And I will have to say, even though I already had a lot of people who were in the habit of emailing me, my email has gone down over 50% since we started using Teams a couple of years ago. And it really has changed the way we work. We meet in channels, we work on our documents in channels. People drop in and teammates add and they contribute, right? I was on a call recently with a couple of teammates on a project, and one of my colleagues from all the way out in Redmond or Bellevue saw the meeting, thought it was interesting, had some ideas, and I have to say his contributions really changed the whole game for us and really made a huge difference. I didn't even know he had the expertise in that particular area, and so I didn't invite him to the meeting, but he saw the channel meeting and he was able to have a huge positive impact for us. So that's the kind of thing that can start happening when people begin to use these modern tools. So what I'm going to do is just go back to my Southridge video and just kind of close the story here. And yes, we are adding this feature. Good to go. And ta-da, situation averted, crisis averted, and we are off to succeed in our business. So just to kind of review some of the things that we've covered here, we saw a whole bunch of features. We saw teams and channels. You got to see the difference between one-on-one chat and then group chat. By the way, as you add more people to the chat, as soon as you get over 3 people, it's going to actually invite you to share the previous chat so that you don't have to re-explain yourself. Or it can you can start it clean, and then maybe just if you didn't really want to share everything that you had done in the smaller chat with a new person. You saw how @mentions work, and they bubble things up into your activity feed so you can find them. I forgot to show actually a couple things, but I forgot to show this one feature. Oops. Well, I forgot to show saving of messages. But this is another nice kind of handy feature to have when you're working. Basically, you can just kind of click a message and save it, and it's a way of highlighting the message so that you can go back to it easily, even after other things have happened in the channel or elsewhere. You saw how the files work. What we didn't have a chance to show was file sync. So the files are actually all in SharePoint and OneDrive underneath the covers of Teams, which is great because it means all of the compliance, e-discovery, file sharing, co-authoring features, web-based editing, all that stuff is actually part of SharePoint and OneDrive. So you kind of get all that in Teams for free, as it were, without anyone having to reinvent that wheel, including the fact that you can now synchronize the files directly from inside of Teams. And if you have the OneDrive sync client on your PC or Mac, you can actually bring those files offline and co-author them when you're online without even thinking about it, and work on them offline when you need to. So that's something that I do all the time. When I join a new team, kind of the first thing I do is take that thing offline, take those files offline if I'm going to be doing a lot of work in there. You saw Meet Now. There's also the ability to schedule a meeting in a channel. You saw Companion Mode. You're seeing the recordings go on in the Synergy Tech meeting. April showed the contact chart and org chart. There's also an inline messaging translation, which we didn't show, but this is something that you can turn on in your tenant that will actually allow, if you've got different people speaking different languages, they can actually translate just by clicking a button in Teams. April showed the co-authoring and the tabs in channels with Power BI, Excel. You can put almost anything in a tab. So, that's another really handy feature, is the ability to just kind of come in here and view other things inside of these tabs. Let me, since we've got a minute, let me show you some more examples right here in this Mark 8 project team. This used to be a SharePoint site. Well, it still is a SharePoint site. And now I'm able to put this into my Teams environment. Notice that all the SharePoint functionality still works, and I can come in here and interact. But the extra navigation that SharePoint might add that might be a little confusing, that's all trimmed away. Here's our project plan. So this is in Microsoft Planner. And I can come in here and, again, without having to leave the environment and kind of, part of the problem with application switching is that not only are you switching back and forth between applications and maybe having to copy and paste information, which is kind of error prone, but every application organizes the information differently. So when you leave one app and you go into another, you're almost always going to be then immediately searching for, navigating in, and trying to figure out where is the information related to what I'm working on right now. Teams provides an organizational structure to all the information so that if you set up your channels, you can actually put everything right there. You've got my notebook. April showed you the Power BI and the ECO application that she wrote. So a ton of options right here that are all embedded right here inside of the Teams experience, and all organized around the same projects. Let's see, what else did we cover? We talked about private channels, bots, guest access. So are there any questions that we can answer here? And we've got about, I don't know, we're allowing a few minutes between sessions, but we've got probably about 5 minutes left here. If anybody has any questions, or if this has been helpful, or even if you have any other tips that you thought of while we're presenting of ways that you use Microsoft Teams, I'd love to hear from you.
Well, Bob, this is Don from Synergy. Give people maybe an opportunity to think about their thoughts. We use Teams in a lot of powerful ways. In our client engagements where we're doing a migration or some sort of services provided, we do create teams for them and invite those resources from that customer as guest users to that team, and it really streamlines the collaboration on the project, and the customers really are engaged in that. And what we find is 9 times out of 10, it fosters a higher level of adoption within their organization.
Yeah, that's a really good thought, and I think Synergy Tech. I've been impressed working with you folks. You're kind of at the leading edge of the curve with all that. So it's great to hear that you're using all of this.
We drink the Kool-Aid earlier so we can let our customers know how good it is.
There you go.